Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Facebook Live. Thanks for joining me. This is a show where every week I'm trying to get on interesting and exciting people requested by yourselves to get them on and interview them and ask them what they've been up to. And I'll also be asking them your questions. And tonight we've got a very special guest on because he is the most recent winner of Britain's Got Talent, which is very, very exciting. He's been very kind to agree to join us tonight. Just before we bring him on, I want to give you a brief reminder of the moment that he won the show.
The winner of Britain's Got Talent 2020 is Jon Courtenay!
John, good to see you.
Come on, hi Richard, how you doing?
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Now, my followers have been sending me loads and loads of messages and for questions basically to ask you, and I've got loads of my own as well. Anyone else who's just joined us, feel free to put your questions in the boxes below and we'll make sure we ask John tonight. But John, tell us, what have you been up to during lockdown?
Oh, you know, non-stop parties, traveling around the world, doing shows.
Didn't I see you in Dubai on a beach having a rave yesterday?
Yeah, I'm an influencer. I was in Dubai with all the rest of them. No, I mean, I've got a lot of questions to ask you because I keep getting. Can you hear me? Okay, is the sound all right? First of all,
you
should
sound
just double check. Oh, we good.
Absolutely
All right, okay,
perfect.
cool. I've had a few people ask me, what's it like winning Britain's Got Talent during lockdown? And my reply's been the same. I'm like, well, I don't know what it's like winning it not in lockdown. So,
Right,
you know, what have I missed out on? I mean, there's that wonderful clip on your show reel of you doing the royal variety and meeting the royal family. That didn't happen. There was no royal family. It was, you know, all my shows like yourself have been from this studio pretty much. But, you know, I'm not complaining. I mean, I had a much better sort of 2020 than most people that I know. So you will never hear me complaining. It's been all right. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose in a way that it'll be the year that you'll always remember as an amazing time, which is great, really. And you know what, I remember watching Britain's Got Talent in 2020 and just feeling like not feeling sorry, but feeling like, wow, I'm pleased I wasn't on in that year, but mainly because I think it was so much harder when there's no live audience. I think what you did was amazing. The fact that you had the connection you had with everyone at home, even though there was no audience for not only you to bounce off, but the audience at home to bounce off. I think it's important when we watch the show. It's nice to see the reactions of the live audience because it makes us, I don't know, it kind of clarifies our reaction in a sense.
Yeah,
But
well, I mean,
you did amazing.
You and I are the same. You know, we've spent our whole careers working off a live audience. I mean, this is as new to us as it is to everybody else in this business doing shows down a camera lens. I mean, I guess it's similar to telly, doing normal telly, if you like, in a studio or whatever. But my shows have always fed off the live audience. And thankfully, my audition was at the Palladium with the live audience. And you know what? I'm quite pleased that they're not going ahead with it this year because they were talking about doing it like Americans Got Talent did it in the big studio with just the 4 judges. And the comedians, I mean, it's tough. You know, anybody well, magicians as well, when you want that reaction, rather than just coming out and doing a song beginning to end, anybody that's trying to get a reaction out of the audience, you lose that completely, no matter how hard the 4 judges are trying. So, yeah, we auditioned January. By the time it was broadcast in April, obviously went into lockdown. And most of my family, my wife and my mum and people like that were saying, you know, it's such a shame that you've done it this year. And I guess at first that was like a first reaction because it was almost like COVID and lockdown was going to overshadow it. But then, you know, we've all got to adapt. I mean, it got so serious. For so many people, the whole situation got so tragic that it almost became a mission to try and make BGT something uplifting and feel good. And that kind, you know, it gave me a real sort of purpose to try and sort of aim towards. And the whole virtual screen thing, I mean, yeah, it's completely surreal. It's the weirdest thing, especially I mean, they really went for it. They spent 300,000 quid on that virtual wall. Just that screen was over £250,000. You know, it was incredible. It was amazing, but nothing substitutes a live audience. So it was weird. But as I say, you won't hear me complaining. It was all right.
Well, you mentioned about the being able to make sure you make a connection with everyone, and something that I loved from yourself. I loved all your performances, but the moment that I thought, okay, this guy's the winner, was your final, because it was so perfect for what the nation needed. And I was kind of hoping someone would create something that the nation needed in that way. It was emotional, kind of put a happy spin on the sadness that we were all feeling at the time. And then you had you had a big Union Jack come down, didn't you? And it felt very British.
Always.
Very,
you can't go wrong with a Union Jack. Yeah, I mean there were obviously a lot of sort of not tense meetings, but delicate meetings because I wrote about 5 things I think over the course of BGT. I wrote a couple of different things for the semis. Obviously, because I got Ant Det's Golden Buzzer, I knew in January that I was going to be in the semis, so I started working straight away on my semi song. And what I wrote, this has become quite a part of my show now and my tour later in the year. I'm going to talk about this because I came up with this idea of a song that it's one of the songs I'm most proud of that I've ever written, and hardly anybody's heard it. As we were leaving the theatre in January, I fell down some steps outside the theatre, and my wife Emma caught me, and she sort of stopped me falling into the road. We might have had a couple of, Proseccos or champagnes to celebrate at this point. And she said, oh, babe, she said, don't die. That would be a waste of the Golden Buzzer, which, was funny and loving and thoughtful. So, yeah, so we started giggling about it. And then on the train on the way home, I came up with this idea for a song about all the things that could go wrong now that I'd been given this big opportunity. And of course, the worst thing would be I would die. But then there's lots of other things that could happen. So I wrote a song called I Must Not Die. And it was all about basically trying to stay alive until the semi-final so I didn't ruin my chances. That was this sort of dark, I love Python. I love all that sort of slightly twisted humor. And that's what it was influenced by. And I was really proud of it. And I sent it to Britain's Got Talent a week later and said, I've got this song. And they loved it. And they said, yes, we'll have dancers and we'll have backing and we'll make this big production number. And then come April, I got a very tentative phone call from one of the producers because somebody had pointed out that Ant Det's Golden Buzzer had submitted a song that he wanted to sing during a national pandemic called I Must Not Die, which obviously I'd written, I'd written it long before lockdown or COVID or anything. I had nothing to do with that. But obviously they were like, yeah, he can't do that. And it did, obviously it crossed my mind, but sometimes you're too close to the woods to see the trees. It's that thing. I'd written this song that I was really proud of. It was funny. Obviously it had nothing to do with COVID, but it was called I Must Not Die. So that went on the back burner, but it's in the show now. It's going to be in the tour and it's in my virtual shows. So yeah, I'd written a lot of stuff, but then for the finals, I thought, it's the elephant in the room, and they were nervous about me singing about it. They sort of almost didn't want me to mention it. And I said, but A, as a songwriter, and B, as a comedian, you're always trying to tap into something that people can relate to. You look at your Michael McIntyres, your Peter Kays, going back, your observational comedians that were pointing stuff out, and you see the audience's reaction. They're laughing and they're saying, oh yeah, I do that, or I say that, and they're laughing because they relate to it. And it's a really important part of, use it in magic as well. Anything theatrical, if you can get people to relate to what you're doing, you've immediately made an emotional connection. So obviously I had to do it. I said, I can't not make a song about what we're going through. The whole world has gone through. So there was a lot of, I had to write it quite delicately. But once I found that hook of making it about being optimistic and focusing on the little things that we can maybe have some control over instead of being overwhelmed by the hugeness of what was going on, then I sort of read it quite quick. And yeah, I guess it worked all right.
It was perfect. So how long did that take then, do you reckon? Was that something?
What, to write the song?
Months? Yeah. Is that?
No, I mean, once I get the gist of the song, sometimes it's weeks thinking of what it's going to be. The hook, the idea. But once I have the idea, I write them pretty quick. Within a day, it's normally the basic thing is there, and then it's just tweaked and polished. And I worked with another writer who. It's always good to have that objective view of somebody who's not too close to it, who can say, well, this rhyme would be better or this, whatever. The basic song, I write all my stuff. If I've got an idea which I think is good, then I'll run with it really quick. Yeah, within 24 hours, it's normally. Elton John has written all his big hits within 20 minutes. Did you know that? I'm not comparing myself to Elton John, but he said his biggest hits. Obviously, Bernie Taupin had written the lyrics, but Elton said he'd written the tune for most of his big hits within 20 minutes. And if he hasn't got it in 20 minutes, he puts it to one side. So I'm in good company. Mine's like maybe 24 hours. Elton's 20 minutes. It's
awesome. I just before we move on, I'm just gonna change. Basically, I've just suddenly realised I'm on my Wi-Fi instead of my Ethernet cable, and I just want to make sure that everyone watching is getting the best quality out of this. So if this cuts out, we'll come straight back in. But I'm sure it shouldn't.
Okay.
But if it does, we'll come straight back in. And we are now on the Ethernet cable, and you're still there, which means it must have been a success. Just if you're watching, just put a comment in now, just to let us know that you're still watching, just in case it cut off Facebook. But I'm pretty sure that is fine, and it should be fine now. Just because I had just one little glitch there from yourself, John. I want to make sure we don't get it. A lot of thumbs up, so that's good. So, John, something I wanted to ask you about. It's absolutely fine if you don't want to talk about it. But I did read in the news, I think it was last week, that during the show you were obviously going through something extremely worrying at the time that you didn't even really tell anyone about, and you still went on and did the show. In case anyone didn't see that, tell us about what the situation was.
Yeah,
only if you're comfortable with it. I mean, we don't.
No, it's fine. I mean, we've been putting it out there, trying to get this little campaign going. Really, I mean, we wanted some good to come out of it. So I auditioned in January, and it was around that time that I noticed a mole on the side of my head. I shaved my head when I shaved my face, so I'm quite aware of anything. And this mole popped up, and it was in January, February time, and I just left it. I was working, I was busy, and then COVID hit. There's always something else to. So it wasn't until July that I went to my doctor and said, look, I've got this mole that's appeared. And he looked at it. He said, I don't like the look of that. He said he referred me to a dermatologist. The dermatologist said that needs to come out. And so by August, I mean, it was very quick when they saw it. They said, yeah, that's not good. So they cut it out and they did a biopsy, and it was a melanoma. It was a cancerous melanoma. And because I'd left it so long, it got sort of quite deep. It got almost 3 millimeters deep, which is big for a melanoma, apparently. So they had to take some. They did a sentinel node biopsy on some lymph nodes here, and so that all sort of happened around the time of the semis and stuff. So I had the scarf and the mole removal for the semis, and I was very aware of the fact that I'm not taking away from anybody else who's been on the show, but BGT first and foremost is a television show. Rather than a talent show. I've always thought that, Simon and his production company, they're making a TV show. If you look back at the old days, Opportunity Knocks and New Faces and stuff like that, they were more about, because back then you could win a show like that or even just appear on a show like that, and your career would be mapped out, because you had the variety shows and the panel shows and the chat shows. And now it's different. We haven't got that sort of circuit. The summer seasons have gone. So everything's changed. And, I will not take away from Simon Cowell's a businessman. He's created an amazing product, but it's more about being a TV show than a talent show. And I get that. So they want the sob stories. They want the background. They want to make it theatrical. And I'd already auditioned. I'd already got the golden buzzer, and I didn't suddenly want people to be influenced by something else that was going on. I was quite proud of the fact that I'd written this original song and it had worked and I'd got the golden buzzer. It would have really upset me if this had sort of got out. So it wasn't a brave thing. It was nothing about trying to do it on my own, because my family knew, my wife knew, my immediate friends and family knew. But I just didn't want it to get out into the press. So we just got on with the show, really. And then had the operation just after. Well, the fight it got delayed because of COVID as well. That was the thing. I got COVID, and then I was still positive a month later. So because it's a cancer hospital, they're really strict about that sort of stuff. So it got delayed. Basically, it wasn't until the beginning of December that I actually had the operation. In fact, it was the day before when I met you, the day before the filming of the Christmas show. So I probably shouldn't have come down and done it. My recording of that show was one of the hardest things I've done. I mean, it was it's stressful anyway, being in that environment with all these big stars and all the TV cameras. But I was literally the day out of hospital. And I didn't know at that point whether it had spread. Yeah, they were looking at lymph nodes and stuff. So it could have. My recording of that show, I was so worried that we had to do a lot of takes, and it was tough going. And David Williams, bless him, halfway through we had to keep stopping because I just kept messing up and forgetting words and just getting stressed, and I was in pain and blah, blah. And David just stood up and said, John, you've got this. Don't worry. We're proud of you. He didn't know. I mean, none of them knew what was going on. He just thought I was nervous, I guess, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But it was, I wanted to just say, this isn't me. I'm not normally this bad. I'm not normally this nervous. I love being on stage. I love performing, but I was just being a bit overwhelmed with everything else that had happened, I guess. But I didn't want to sort of, even then, it wasn't something to get out and So yeah, it was. But now we've managed to get something good out of it because we're doing this campaign. Obviously, I wrote a song about it called the Mole Song because I write songs now a lot more than I did before BGT. So I wrote the Mole Song, and basically during COVID, I got in touch with Macmillan, and they said that cancer's becoming the forgotten sea during COVID. So anything you can do to help, because people are thinking that they shouldn't bother their GPs or hospitals with concerns about moles or lumps or anything that's going on. And that's just not the case. I mean, I was seen so quickly and everything was dealt with so efficiently. It's still, cancer is still a primary concern. GPs and hospitals are really on the case, and people need to know that. So don't put it off is the message. Basically, if you've got a mole that you're worried about or a lump or you found something, don't think because we're in lockdown or because of COVID that you shouldn't contact your GP. And the feedback, I can't begin to tell you, Richard. I mean, I've had the loveliest messages from complete strangers that just make me realize that, we've done the right thing. Just talking about, people saying I had this, I had that. I've now called my GP, blah, blah, blah. It's really emotional. People people that you don't know. It's the same as you. We've been in this business for a while, but something like BGT suddenly launches you onto a platform that you've never been on before. And it can overwhelm you, and you can meet a lot of weirdos, and there's obviously all the negative stuff which goes along with it. But it is more than made up for by the positiveness and the kindness and the people that you can reach out to and make a difference to, the charities and the stuff that you've actually got a voice for. And my God, it makes you feel good. I mean, it's such a feel good situation to be in, to be able to feel that you can make a difference in whatever regard it is, So yeah, that's why we're doing it. That's why I have a big bandage on my head, and there you go.
You know what? I didn't actually even notice the bandage on your head.
Really?
There it is. Yeah, I do.
It just blended into the whiteness of my skin. I know, it's all right.
Yeah. Saying when you mention about how overwhelming it is when you get such lovely messages when you suddenly appear on a big TV show like that. I never really mentioned this before, but I've always got a memory of the weekend that my first ever audition got shown. I all of a sudden had obviously a big influx of followers messaging me, and over that Saturday night and a Sunday, and then Monday morning I had to be in work at 6 a.m, and at the time I was traveling 3 hours to work, so it was really early on my way there. But that whole weekend I'd pretty much had no sleep, and it was because I was just so overwhelmed with how many nice messages I'd had. I felt like I should reply to as
you really try, don't you?
Basically. Yeah. And the more you reply to, the more replies you got back from that. And obviously, because that moment, obviously now it's fine because you can message more people. It's slightly easier because they don't come all at once. But I always remember getting to work. I was so flustered, actually. I on the way to work, I actually followed a diversion and stupidly followed the diversion the wrong way. I went around a roundabout, missed the diversion I was supposed to take, and ended up taking a diversion back towards my house. And I didn't realise until I'd driven about 45 minutes back to my own house. And I was so flustered. I got to work, and in the end I was in tears, just of emotion, because I had so many. It was such a nice time, but also so overwhelming that I just didn't know what to do with myself. But yeah, and obviously then at that point I realised that I had to obviously take it easy, and I had my sister help me to figure out like which messages I could reply to and stuff. But it's crazy, so nice that so many people want to reach out to you when they see what you're doing, and you've made an impact on those people. It's a lovely
exactly.
Lovely
Do you know what I've told so many people? But I'm a typical middle-aged dad. I'd never used a hashtag until the night that my audition was broadcast, and we had a friend we had a friend staying with us who's very much up on the whole social media thing, and luckily she was just like, okay, do this, tag the, celebrities are messaging you, people with blue ticks are messaging you, going, oh, I just saw, and you're getting all this amazing stuff, and you think, well, the business side of you is meant to be utilizing that and retweeting and doing all that, whatever it is, and then the personal side of you just wants to say thank you to everybody. And it is totally. And my friend's going, oh, and you have to hashtag. I don't actually know what a hashtag does. I don't know what I'm doing. So it was quite a steep learning curve. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the key to modern day life now. Is the hashtag.
I'm
not so much on Instagram anymore. I'm more of a Facebook person. There's not so much hashtags on Facebook anymore, which is handy. So something I wanted to ask you, because I think you're the first person who's ever got the gold buzzer and also won the show. Is that right?
I found that out when Ant and Dec announced it on the finals. Yeah, they said, not only is he the winner, he's the first gold buzzer. And you see my face going, really? Oh, that's That's cool.
Well, so I saw a question. I can't find it now because I'll have to flick out. I can't remember who asked it.
We are
Someone
getting. I was trying to find some of these questions as well. We're getting a lot of comments, but we're going to miss a lot of stuff. But go on.
Well,
Shoot.
so someone's asked, what was more powerful, the moment that you got the gold buzzer or the moment when you won? Because I suppose both would have felt like a shock, but the first one would have been more unexpected, no doubt, right? What?
Yeah. Well, I think.
What would you say?
I mean, I honestly never expected to win it. I never went. Nothing I wrote for the show was with the intention of winning a talent show, because I've tried to explain this a few times, and I don't think I've ever managed to explain it exactly right, how it is in my head. But if I'm writing something, I need a reason to write it, the reason for the song. And I didn't want the reason for writing a song to be to win a competition. I wanted the song to be about something else. So for the audition, it was about auditioning. It was about being at the London Palladium and about making my kids proud. Obviously, that wasn't about winning a competition. It was about auditioning, but it was about hearing that. And then for the semi-finals, it was about my mum and dad and about me being a kid and looking to my mum and dad. And then for the finals, it was about COVID and focusing on the small things. I think if I'd have sat down to try and write a song about winning a competition, it would have been a very different song, and it might not have sort of reached as many people. It would have been a bit selfish. So I didn't want the pressure. I didn't want to think about trying to win a competition. All the times I was performing, I just felt like I was part of a variety show with a bunch of other performers. And that sort of kept the nerves controlled and whatever. But I think the golden buzzer was, obviously more of a shock. I mean, statistically, I got asked just before I went on, they do these little interviews backstage with you and stuff, and they're going to try and use sound bites. And one of the producers said, how would you feel if you got the golden buzzer? And I knew at this point that I was the last act on the last night of auditions in London. So I didn't go on stage till like 11 o'clock at night. And then the next day they were going to Manchester and doing 2 weeks in Manchester. And there were only 2 golden buzzers left, Anton Dex and David Williams. Alicia, Amanda and Simon had used their golden buzzer at this point. Now, I know when it's broadcast, it's all broadcast out of order. And, you have no idea whether it's Manchester or whatever. But I just thought statistically, they know they've got the auditions in Manchester to go ahead yet. If I was a judge with a golden buzzer, I'd be like, well, I'm going to save it for Manchester. Yeah. That's sort of where your head is. So in my mind, I was just like, I haven't really thought about a golden buzzer. I said, I'll just be happy. I said, I'm singing an original song that I've never performed before. I'm doing it at the Palladium and I'm doing it on national television. That's enough to think about. I said, I'll be happy if I don't get buzzed off. I said, if I get to the end of my song and everybody's clapping, that's it. I mean, if it doesn't go any further, I am happy as Larry. I just wanted to perform at the Palladium. That was my whole purpose, because I live in Manchester. I mean, they said to me when I approached them about auditioning, they said, well, obviously you want to audition at the Lowry, which is 20 minutes from my house. And I said, oh no. I said, if I'm doing this, I'm coming down to London and I'm doing the Palladium. I said, it's the home of variety. I watched all the shows there with my family growing up. It has to be the Palladium. So that's really where my brain was. I wasn't even thinking about the competition. I wasn't thinking about a golden buzzer. I was just thinking about being at the Palladium and doing this song. And I remember standing there at the end of the song. The judges were stood up. The audience was stood up. Everybody was cheering and clapping. Everybody had laughed in the right places, which I wasn't sure if all the jokes were going to hit, because it was a new song. And I remember standing there. My son had run up on stage and had hugged me. And I stood there and thought, this is it. I've just got to breathe it in because it doesn't get any better than this. And then my son started shouting, Dad, you've done it. Dad, you've done it. And I didn't know what he was shouting at because he'd seen Anton Deck come out before I had, because he was facing that way. And when I saw them come out, you'll know this. The only reason you see Anton Deck come out on stage during the recording is if something's gone wrong, or if a magician calls them out to come and help out. Because they come out in between all the acts all the time and have a chat with the audience and with the warm-up guy, and because something's gone wrong or there's a delay in recording. So my first thought was something's gone wrong. That's why they've run out, to tell the audience that something's gone wrong. And then I realized what was happening. So yeah, that was two completely different feelings, really. I mean, I was quite prepared to come second to sign along with us in the finals. That would have been great too. I mean, God knows I needed the prize money, but it would have been okay. It would have been okay to come second. But yeah, it was, both of them were pretty out of body experiences. It's the only way to explain it.
Yeah. Are you doing shows now from your house? Are you doing Zoom shows and stuff now?
To talk about hindsight. I mean, I started converting our garage into a studio just before lockdown. I started sort of clearing stuff out and saying I need a space that I can put my piano and all my stuff, whatever. And then lockdown happened, and I said, well, it was a project to do because all my gigs got cancelled. I wasn't working all this time at home, So we started converting the garage, and we started spending money that we didn't have. I mean, I bought stuff for a studio that I didn't know I was going to need, because we didn't know lockdown was going to go on for months, So we converted the garage, and now I've got this incredible space, and I've got a green screen and all that jazz, So it's been great. I mean, it is a steep learning curve to do the virtual shows and stuff, and obviously winning Britain's Got Talent. I got a lot of exposure to companies and corporate gigs and stuff that I guess, you can tell me this. I mean, the normal environment, once you've won a show like this, I presume you're flying all over the world and driving up and down the country on motorways to do the corporate gigs at the venues where they're having the Christmas, especially because it was Christmas, all the Christmas parties and all these companies. So in that regard, it was great. I was walking into my studio doing a show, and I was in bed 2 minutes later. It was amazing. And now I've got this great sort of setup here, which is, I mean, like I said, I can't wait to get back on stage. I can't wait to get back to a live audience and a theatre and that buzz that you get. But in the meantime, I'm in my little cozy studio and loving life. It's all right. Yeah.
It's something that is nice that I've realised is you can see, you have the potential to see so many more people doing a virtual. I don't know if it's the same for yourself, but I've always found every Christmas the most busy day for inquiries is always the 16th of December. I don't know why, but if all of the gig requests that always come on that same day, if all of those came on different days, you'd have an amazing December. But usually you obviously have to only choose one of those gigs on that specific day. Whereas the amazing thing about we're lucky with, especially the performers who have obviously, we've all had a difficult year being able to perform. The nice thing about Christmas Just Gone is even on the days where there was multiple booking requests, we could pretty much do all of them now, which is a really nice touch. And also all over the world, you could do a show for someone in Hong Kong and then 2 minutes later America, and then finish with one local in the evening. It's bizarre.
Exactly. Yeah. We have to. You keep asking me questions, but there's a few subjects we have to broach here, Richard. And we as you say, we only met briefly on a minibus, because even at the recording of the Christmas show, they kept us all apart because of COVID and social distancing and stuff. So we were all in the hotel, and we really didn't get a chance to hang out. But yeah, so you didn't know that I used to do magic. So I started in this business as
just found that out.
Yeah, so I did comedy magic. I got into it as a kid, like a lot of people do. I was about 7 years old, got the Paul Daniels magic set, and then started working professionally as a comedy magician. And I went to a military boarding school for 7 years, and naval military boarding school. You've got a piano behind you. I mean, this feels like you're my brother from another mother. It's weird. We seem to have a lot to talk about.
It's like we switch each other's hobbies though, because I didn't start magic until probably when I joined the army, 2010. So it seems like we both ended up going the opposite directions in that kind of thing.
So have you played piano for a long time? Has that been a part of your life?
I've played the piano since I was young. Probably 6 or 7. Yeah. But
how strange!
You've always been a magician, pianist, right? Have you? I assume.
Yeah, same. I mean, I played by ear. I mean, we had a piano in the house. I as young as I can remember, I went to a Church of England primary school. I used to come home from school at 4 or 5 years old and be able to play the hymns that we'd sung that morning. Which are sort of quite simple melodic tunes. So my parents recognised that I had this sort of gift to play by ear, but never pushed me into lessons really. It was always self-taught and playing by ear, listening to songs and picking them out. But then I've always compared it to kids that learn a language when they're that age. They don't think it's special. I could just play piano, and I did it. But then when I discovered magic, that was an obsession. I mean, like a lot of kids that get into magic, I went to the magic conventions, and I dragged my dad to my local the joke shop in my town and buy me magic tricks. And I learned all the sleight of hand. I mean, it was all about sleight of hand for me. I wasn't really into the illusions and stuff. It was all about coins and cards and sleight of hand. Cigarettes back in the day, I used to use all the cigarette manipulation. Cardini was sort of one of my heroes. I used to love watching Cardini. But then for me, I started getting laughs, and it was that feeling was bigger than trying to fall. For me, it was I got more pleasure at making people laugh than making them go, "Oh, that was clever." So it was sort of influenced by people like Tommy Cooper and people that used magic as a hook for the comedy. So that's how I started working professionally as a comedy magician. And then I was doing a gig. I was 19 years old in Cyprus, working in a hotel in Cyprus. And I used to play cocktail piano in the early evening. And then at nighttime, I do my Comedy Magic cabaret show. And some guy at the hotel came up and he saw me after my show. And he said, "Are you the guy that was playing the piano in the lobby?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Why don't you play the piano in your stage show?" And I said, "Well, don't be ridiculous. I'm a comedy magician. Why would I play the piano?" And he said, "You'd be the only comedy magician that plays the piano." And, being in this business, if you can do something original. So I started doing this really weird show. I mean, for about 8 or 9 years, I toured with this show that was comedy and magic for, 40 minutes. And then at the end of the show, for no reason, I jumped on a piano and started rocking and rolling and doing all this stuff. It was a really weird show. And so I guess after that, the show just started evolving, and the comedy sort of stayed and came to the piano, and the bits of chat I used to do with the magic, things evolve and develop and stuff. But it was probably only sort of 10, 15 years ago that I sort of stopped doing the magic. I still do it. I think, if you do it, I love it. I mean, it was, as soon as you get a couple of magicians together, they get a deck of cards out and start being a couple of geeks talking about magic, which is great. That's what you do. And I still love going to the Blackpool convention and stuff. But yeah, it appears we have a lot in common. It's great.
Well, the other thing that we've got in common, which I've just found out, is you mentioned that all began to an extent in a hotel in Cyprus.
Yeah,
that's exactly when I started doing magic. So it was around 2010. I was in Cyprus with the United Nations. I was only there for a short amount of time, but we were in a hotel as well. But it was like a rundown hotel that had been basically overtaken by the United Nations. Been an abandoned hotel, so it was kind of like a really luxurious hotel that's kind of been crumbling, falling apart.
Was this in was this in the north? This is in the Turkish half?
No, so this is in the
okay.
Yeah, okay. And not far from the, I can't remember what the division's called. What do they call the
the border? Yeah, I can't remember.
I'm not sure what they call it.
Yeah,
and I was gutted actually. They asked if I wanted to go in and see the no-go zone, and I turned it down at the time. It's the biggest regret I've ever had. But anyway, we were in this big hotel, rundown hotel, working with the United Nations, and there was a guy there doing some card tricks, but playing cards with everyone. And they'd found out that I knew a couple of little card tricks, but I was no magician. And I always remember he pulled one card out the pack, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, you know some tricks. Tell me, what card is this?" And just as like a David Blaine kind of pose, like playing it cool, I said, Jack of Hearts. And just out of pot luck, it was the Jack of Hearts. And he turned it around and everyone went
He must
mad.
have loved that.
Honestly, it was the most bizarre thing. And I've never replicated anything that powerful ever again. But they were throwing his around like David Blaine.
I bet he is still telling that story now too.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I didn't tell him. I'm still good friends with him. But I didn't tell him that I fluked that until after I won Britain's Got Talent. And the funny thing was I won Britain's Got Talent and he sent me a photo of that card that I signed on that day, and he's had it in his wallet since, which I knew nothing of. But he said, cool. I was so blown away by it, I've had this in my wallet. And then at that point I said, well, just that started my career, but that was a complete fluke. I actually had no idea what card it was. So that was a strange way to start a career with a pure guess like that. But
that's mad. So you've only done it for you've only been doing it for what, 2016 you won, or 17 you won? 16
I won, yeah. So
that's mad. So you've been doing it for 6 years and then you won Britain's Got Talent. Wow. Yeah. All those magicians that were doing it since they were 4 years old were going, son of a bitch.
no doubt they hate me.
Oh no, that's brilliant.
I found a question here. Let's bring up a question from Rosemary. It says, what has been your favourite your favourite showbiz experience? I
haven't had any. I've been sat in my studio for months. We haven't been to any red carpet affairs or anything. Probably the show. I mean, there's certainly the Christmas show as well was awesome, because I think the Christmas show was my first high-profile show, not as a contestant, because the whole of Britain's Got Talent, I'd been, a guy that was basically auditioning or trying to win a show, whatever. And then on the back of that, they sort of, brought us all back. So everybody that was part of the BGT Christmas show was everybody that had some success on the show. Although I was freaked out by the stuff that was going on in my head, that was my first sort of high-profile show as a performer. I don't know. There's been a lot of, pre-BGT, I've been in this business for 30 years. So I've met some wonderful people, and I don't know about you, Richard. I don't really get starstruck. I just want to talk to people. If I meet somebody who's, you know, at the pinnacle of what they do, the pinnacle of their career, I sort of want to sit down and have a beer with them and just sort of say, you know, how are you and how does it feel? And there's not sort of that. I don't really get starstruck because we're all in the same business. Just some of us have been in the right place at the right time, kind of thing, you know.
I think it's quite nice when you bump into people on a relaxed setting when you're a performer as well. And like I always remember, I use this as an example. I always remember meeting Robbie Williams when I was on the Royal Variety Show 2016. He was on that same night, and up until then, I was an admirer of his success. I always thought he was great, but I always assumed that he's probably not that friendly in real life. But then I met him on the Royal Variety, and he was such a nice guy. It was such a nice. It's so nice when you meet someone that you're not sure if it's all an act or whether they're nice or whether they're not.
Yeah, I've heard
someone and you relax. It's a nice experience. Yeah,
I've heard a lot of stories about people meeting their heroes and them just turning out to be arseholes, and you think, that would be that. So this here's a 7 degrees of separation. So I was on the Royal Variety with Gary Barlow, and Robbie Williams' dad was my mentor when I was 18 years old. So he was the ents manager of the hotel. So Rob's a year younger than me, 17, and it was at the height of Take That. So Rob used to come to the hotel, which was in the middle of countryside in Cheshire, to hang out with his dad when he wanted to get away from the paparazzi. So we got to know each other quite well. So Take That are huge. I'm 18. I've got my first professional gig at a hotel. Robbie shows up at the height of Take That mania, you know. And in fact, when he left Take That, that's where he bolted to because nobody knew his dad was there, whatever. So me and Rob sort of got back in the day. We got to know each other sort of quite well. And then I've stayed in touch with Pete ever since because, you know, he came to our engagement party and he's a good friend, and had a couple of messages sort of via Pete from Rob, which has been lovely. So then at the Royal Variety, I get a message from Pete saying, oh, obviously, please say hi to Gary for me, who I'd never met or had anything to say to. So that was a nice little introduction just to be able to sort of say, oh, Pete says hi. Oh, is he here? No. And as I'm chatting to Gary, Mel C walks up and we have this sort of conversation with me, Take That, and the Spice Girls, which was, that's for me from the age of 18 to today has been the Spice Girls and Take That. And all of a sudden I'm stood on the Blackpool Opera House stage talking to Gary and Mel C. It was that is weird. I mean, we're having a perfectly normal conversation, but inside I'm going, this isn't normal. This isn't, this isn't natural. But it was lovely. It's a great experience. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, Rob was great. I'm glad I'm sure he's still lovely. He was lovely back in the day. So.
Your Royal Variety, was that in Blackpool then?
Blackpool Opera House. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I didn't realise that.
That was handy as well. Just an hour from my house. Yeah.
Oh, right, nice. Yeah, no, I assumed it was in the Hammersmith Apollo, just because it was all set up. Well, I suppose it wasn't set up for that. It was BGT. BGT's always filming around the same time, isn't it, for the finals? Yeah. But okay, nice. That's a great venue. That's huge, right?
Yeah, well, at the time it was a bit weird because my tour doesn't start till like sort of September time, my proper tour, like sort of every night up and down the country. But I had a few dates that had come in. I had the Lowry, which was meant to be in December, but the Blackpool Opera House was meant to be 2 weeks after the Royal Variety Show, and it would have been my first live performance since March. So, I'm not afraid to tell you, that's nature's finest laxative. I was thinking my first time back on stage in 10 months cannot be the Blackpool Opera House. That's gonna blow my mind. So I was sort of treating the Royal Variety as a warm up, and then of course it got cancelled. Well, postponed. I'm back in I'm at the Opera House in I don't know. I can't remember the date, but it's at some point. All the dates have been postponed now. So
where can people find details for you?
JonCourtenay.com. Go to the website, JonCourtenay.com. There's a tour tab and all the dates are there, and
So are the rescheduled dates on there now?
Everything that's been postponed. As I say, the Lowry was in there. I think that's gone through to 2022. Actually, we're getting 2022 dates now, which is exciting. And hopefully, by the time the actual tour takes off, I've got a lot of Butlins dates all over the country in sort of July and August, which will be great because I get to run a lot of the tour stuff. And then the tour kicks off September and October. Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, I've looked at the schedule, but it's going to be crazy. I'm very excited for it. Like we all are. We all just want to get back to live shows.
Will you take your family with you, or have you got a big team that goes with you? Or
Nah, not a big team. I've got it's
Someone
the first
carries the
tour.
piano, surely.
Somebody, yeah. I've actually built a shell. I've built a grand piano shell. So on stage it looks like a grand piano, but it's actually a digital piano. Elton does it as well, apparently. I'm in
That's
good
exactly
company.
what this one is.
Oh, is it a
This
shell?
is a shell. Yeah.
Brilliant.
This is a Steve Way's piano shell. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So I've built a baby
tour,
grand. Yeah. So
I saw a video on I think it was your Facebook or your Instagram of you building
me building it.
You built it yourself, didn't you? Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So do you play?
I wish I did now.
Do you play piano in your show, in your theatre show?
I did. So when I don't do magic while I'm playing, but something I did in the beginning of my escape tour, which was 2017, is I did a little dedication piece to one of the people who inspired me the most in magic and helped me the most in my career, who was actually the man who I featured on Britain's Got Talent final, Mr. Fergus Ancorn. So I did a little tribute to him in the act, but I wanted people, just in case anyone hadn't heard of who he is, I wanted people to be able to see him and hear about his story without me just trying to find the right words to explain it. So I put together a little video on the big screens, and then we bought the piano shell because I thought it would be nice if at that moment when that dedication video comes up, if I walk over to the piano and I play a nice relaxed kind of piece. So that was all we used it for in the show. Sat down to play that music for that before I then moved on to do the magic tribute for him. It turned out it was a large item and quite tricky to fit in the vehicle
for one little bit.
Just for that 30 seconds of piano.
Have you never thought about doing I used to do a prediction thing for a deck of cards and have people, but the deck of cards was the name of songs, and there was 52 songs. So you'd get a bunch of people to choose some songs, and then you'd end up sit at the piano and play a medley of the songs that people had chosen. That
is a lovely idea. The only problem is I'm terrible at remembering music off by heart, so I don't think I could memorize 52 songs. I think that would be
no. You only have like 5 or 6 chosen at random from the deck, and then you play them.
I don't know what you mean by at random.
I know you don't. Sorry, I shouldn't have done the rabbit ears.
I've just seen someone here has said. I'm going to put this up just so you can see it. Your message is obviously making it to people, which is nice to see. Someone talking about checking moles and stuff, which is a big,
brilliant, Rachel. Good on you.
That's good news. Yes.
That's
important.
That's some of the stuff that I've had, and it's amazing. I mean, I spoke to my manager about it. I said, if we do this, we got in touch with Macmillan and we made it sort of, we got on this morning and we got the Sun to do an article on it, and I've done loads of radio stuff about it. And I said, you know what? It makes no difference to me at all. I mean, I've been through it, and talking about it is actually quite therapeutic. It's quite nice to sort of put it out there and talk about it. I said, but if one person hears you talking about that and stops procrastinating like I did for 4 months and just goes, do you know what? I've had this little thing, and I'm just going to phone the doctor, and the doctor sees it and they catch it and they get it out, and that's worth it. That's
a huge
success. Great. Of course it is. Yeah. Absolutely. And I've had so many messages from people that have just, all positive, and it's brilliant. Yeah. Great. Just to be able to use your voice for something,
So, John, the lovely Luella is going to see you.
I've just seen that. I'm seeing you October. VIP too. Excellent. You come backstage before the show. That's nice. Amazing. Thanks, Luella. I'll see you then.
And also, so Tim Hill has put your kids can be your entourage. Oh, sorry, I didn't give you a chance to answer that question. Who do you take on tour with you? Who really does carry the piano?
No, well, the piano packs down into the back of a car, luckily. So I have a roadie and a sound engineer who'll be sort of, running the show for me. We're keeping it fairly intimate. I mean, my show's always been about me and a piano recently, sort of the last, I guess 10, 11, 12 years of my show. Most of the show's at the piano with a little bit of stand-up and stuff. And nowadays, you can do the whole multimedia thing. You don't need the set. I mean, we're using some screens and some video and things like that. So in the words of my good friend Jamie Allen, pack small, plays big. And that's the whole idea. If I can travel with a small entourage, but my kids will come, as much as they can. That they're excited to come and see Dad do his thing again. It's
Do your kids play music as well?
Not really. I mean, my oldest comes into the studio and sits at the piano, and he plays like me. He plays by ear, but he's got his phone, and the phone. He'll listen to something on the phone, and it will show lights on a piano keyboard. I don't know. It's a whole new way of learning.
Yeah.
Lights come down, and he'll play stuff on the phone. And yeah, they're both interested. I'm not sure either of them. It's weird because my eldest now is 15. It's going to be 16 next month, and. Well, see, this is interesting because you were the same. I knew that I wanted to be in this business from as young as I can remember. My mum and dad were in this business, and I grew up watching them on stage. So from the age of 5 or 6 years old, I wasn't sure if I was going to be a magician or a musician or a singer or a comedian, but I knew I wanted to be an entertainer and have applause and make people feel good and whatever. So that's all I know. I haven't got any brothers or sisters to compare it to. That's all I know. And now I'm having these conversations with my teenage son saying, what's your passion? What do you want to do? And of course, like most 15-year-olds, he hasn't got a clue. He's like, So, and I start to panic. It's my wife who has to say, you were weird. Not many people know what they want to do at 5 years old and then manage to do it. Just let him find his way. You know, most of us go to college and do a course that bears no resemblance to what we end up doing, whatever. So yeah, I just hope, all I say to them is that I hope that they find something that they love to do and then find a way to get paid to do it. I mean, it's as simple as that, because I think the norm in this world is for people to fall into jobs that sometimes they don't like, or they haven't got a passion for, but then they get stuck in it because they get a family and a mortgage and rent and whatever it is that they have to pay for. And that tends to be the norm. And this is it. I mean, I'm not a religious person. This is one life. This is your one thing that you get to do. So find something you love to do. You know, you might never be a millionaire, but all the cliches, if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's just true. It's, find something that is not a job that you're passionate about. And it doesn't matter if you don't make millions. I sort of decided a long time ago that fame wasn't my objective. As I say, I've been working this business for 30 years and had never had a TV show, had never made the papers, had never, but I'd been working consistently, and I'd been working enough to support my family and pay for petrol and put food on the table. And I probably got to my late 20s, maybe, when I just thought, I'm going to stop chasing the fame thing. I'm going to stop chasing that sort of pinnacle that you think you have to achieve in this business to be successful, and just accept the fact that I'm loving what I do and I'm earning enough money to raise a family and support them, And then BGT happened and I took it all back. Now I want fame.
When you stop chasing it, you get it. Yeah, right. Seems to be a message.
Lee Cox. I've just seen that. Biggest question ever, Marmite.
Just as impactful. This is another life lesson. What are you going to say to that?
Well, this is interesting. See, I do like Marmite. My wife doesn't. I do. But this is interesting because I tried the Marmite and Marmite and peanut butter mix. They've done one mixed together, and it's disgusting. It went in the bin. I tried a bit. Well, you definitely won't like it mixed together. I put it in the bin. But yesterday, this is very topical, Lee Cox. I bought a jar of Bovril for the first time in God knows how long. And I put Bovril on my toast instead of Marmite, and it's a completely different taste. But I'm more of a Bovril than a Marmite guy. And I'd forgotten. Good question, Lee Cox.
What is Bovril?
Bovril.
Bovril.
Yeah,
I've not heard of it. Should I have heard of that?
Yes, you should have heard of that. Bovril. Bovril. Is it my accent? It's in a jar that looks like Marmite, and it's red, and it's like a beef extract. Oh, it's as gross as Marmite if you don't like Marmite, but it's not as salty. I think my wife's watching this. If my wife's watching this, can you get the jar of Bovril from the cupboard and bring it into the studio, please? And I can't believe you have never heard of Bovril.
I've never heard of it.
It's been around since like 1910 or something. You can make a hot drink with it. You can put a teaspoonful. It makes like a beef, like beef broth. Like in the winter, you want a nice mug of beef broth. You can mix Bovril with hot water and it makes a beef. You never had a beef broth? No?
I'm not sure anyone watching agrees with where this conversation is going. That sounds horrendous.
Somebody told me that they like Bovril just to shut Richard up, because I can't believe you've never even heard of it. It's so good. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Bovril more than Marmite. Right. Oh, Archie's here.
We've got a question from Archie. It says, what was your favourite part of the BGT experience? And how do you find creating your acts?
That's
So
for both of us. You can go first.
What was your best moment? My best moment would be. Actually, you go first. I need to think on this one.
Well, the obvious answer is winning it, but I actually think my audition. It was such a big deal for me, such an emotional thing to be at the Palladium, and I think everything leading up to the finals was amazing. The whole experience for me was great. I'm not under contract with BGT to tell you that it was great, but everybody was lovely. I cannot fault it. I can't fault a single person on the team, the production team, anybody. They were just lovely. Everybody was lovely, and I was completely taken aback by it. It was. I never saw anybody stressing or shouting or losing their rag. It was just this amazing positive experience. And I'd recommend anybody in this business to do it, to go through it. Even if you don't win, just go through the experience because people are lovely. If you've got a talent, these people that sort of go into it that are sort of thrown under the bus a little bit, it's a little bit cruel sometimes, I think. But if you've got a talent, do it. But my audition for me was something that I will remember just being on the stage at the Palladium, to a standing ovation, thinking of my dad, and then Ant and Deck running out. That was probably that golden buzzer moment was pretty freaking awesome. Yeah,
yeah, I agree with you what you're saying and about the whole experience. And so I think I had a similar conversation with Mark Spellman a few weeks ago. I did a live with Mark Spellman, and I think something that was always key for me is you don't realise just how special it is until that whole experience is finished and you're then moving on to the next thing. And I think looking back, I would love to go back without the pressure of it being a competition and just going back and enjoying the moments, because it's such a special thing to be a part of. Having that many entertainers all having the most exciting part of their career all at the same time is a quite a special experience that on that level, that kind of experience we probably won't happen again in our life. I'd love to just go back and relive it again, just seeing everyone having a great time. And what you say about the BGT team is you expect behind the TV show it to be absolute carnage and people shouting at each other, screaming at each other, a lot of pressure, which in some places, in some TV shows, no doubt it is. But BGT just seems to run so smoothly. They don't show any sort of stress that any contestants.
No, all those runners that they have, and the researchers, and those sort of assistant producers and stuff. There's so many of them. I mean, there's always more people with crew T-shirts on than anybody else. There's hundreds. I think there's 300 that work behind the scenes. And I just said every single one of them was just right from the word go. Just made me feel, welcome and special, and nothing was too much trouble, and just lovely. Yeah, amazing.
So I hate to say it, but Louise has said that she's basically shocked that I've not heard of Bovril. And
more importantly, my wife hasn't brought the jar in, which means she's not watching this live. Why is she not watching me? She should be hanging on my every word. It doesn't matter. You haven't lived, try it. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, everyone seems to be sticking up for you now, which is I even saw someone, I can't see it now where it was, someone says they have the Bovril drink that you mentioned at the football, which is, Lee Cox said, I'll have to try it. Where are you based? Do they do Bovril down in, you're up north somewhere, right?
I'm in north, I'm near Manchester, yeah.
So maybe they don't do it down this far down in the country.
No, they do. They've done it all over the country since the Second World War. So you've got no excuse.
I'll go and check it out tomorrow. I'll see what I can find. Awesome. Right, let's have a look and get some more questions. So Hannah says, showing my age that I know what Bovril is. So it's definitely
not showing your age. It's been around. I mean, it has been around for a long time. It was definitely something during the war. I think people drunk Bovril during the war.
It's definitely a big advert for Bovril tonight. So anyone who hasn't heard of it, we're about to uplift that business. It's about to flourish because we're making it cool again. If it's not already cool, that is. Right, let's have a look. Okay, so Louisa says, apart from the Palladium, where else would you love to perform? It's a good question.
Right now, any theatre. Anywhere with a live audience. Anywhere outside my studio. I don't know. I mean, the Opera House was something that I always wanted to do, and I got to do that at the Royal Variety. I just think live theatres. We did some filming in a tiny little theatre in Leicester for one of my bits of VT for Britain's Got Talent for the finals. Obviously, it was all closed down, and we got permission to go in and film. And it was this gorgeous, I want to say Art Deco, but it probably wasn't Art Deco. But it was a very old theatre with all the gorgeous decor and everything. And there's just something about theatres. I don't know. I mean, as I say, I grew up watching my mum and dad in theatre. And one of my earliest memories is being in the wings. My dad took me backstage to see my mum at the interval of a show. And I was probably 6 or 7 years old. So I was really young. And I remember being in the wings of the stage and looking out and seeing the audience and just getting this buzz. I mean, this feeling of excitement of being in that position, of being backstage and looking at an audience. And it's one of those things that I always sort of try and capture now, wherever theatre I'm in, whether it's a cruise ship or a theatre or wherever it is, I'll just take a moment as I'm standing in the wings and look at the audience to try and remember how I felt as that kid. And sort of the privilege of being there, about to go out and people putting their faith in you to entertain them. It all sounds a bit trite, but it's really what drove me to sort of do what I want to do. So any theatre, I mean, it's probably easier to answer the question, where don't I want to perform again? You know, we've all done those horrific venues where people haven't got a clue. I've done shows around swimming pools with no lights or electricity and all that jazz. But yeah, put me in a theatre, however small or big, with an audience that is sat there waiting to be entertained, waiting to feel good and laugh. And do you know what? It's going to be crazy when we all get back to it. I mean, not just from our point of view, but from the audience's point of view, when the theatre's open again. Because the public want it. There's no substitute for sitting in a theatre and watching a live show, whether it's musical theatre or a magic act or a comedy show, whatever. And I think the audiences are missing it as much as the performers. And I think that first sort of year of getting back into it is going to be so intense. Everything's going to be amplified even more than usual. Yeah. We're going to be giving 1,000,000%, and the audience are going to be right there, willing us on. It's going to be so exciting.
I hope so. That's how I'm hoping it's going to, everyone rushing and wanting to see shows again.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that'll be good. You mentioned, obviously, the cruise ship. Something I'm interested in asking is, obviously, because what you do is comedy, do you find that it's quite difficult to perform in different countries and on cruise ships with multi-languages, mainly from the type of comedy that because everyone's different. I've noticed when I've done shows for Americans, the reaction I get is so different from anywhere else. But I always think that if I was a comedian, the type of banter and the type of comedy would need to be tweaked depending on where you go. Do you find that, or?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously the biggest difference. Any English-speaking country. I mean, Australia is very similar to England. Australian audiences, when I've done those before, they're a little bit more raucous. They're a little bit more edgy, I guess. Australians, party people. Americans, you just got to realize that it's Winston Churchill, I think, said we're two nations divided by a common language, which is very true, because you think they speak English, but they don't. They speak American. And I've been caught out a lot of times doing shows to Americans and just throwing a line out there and it just dying a death and not realizing. I remember one of the most recent ones was I said, you're going to recognize this song. It's from an advert on the telly. And Americans don't have adverts and they don't have tellies. They have commercials and they have TVs. Yeah. If you say to a British audience, this is from a commercial on the TV, they immediately know what you're talking about because we are Americanized. We watch all the American sitcoms and the movies. But Americans take a bit longer to translate it from adverts on the telly. So basically, I rewrote my show so that everything in it worked for Americans. And by default, it therefore worked for Brits. It just did. It's just the way it is, And yeah, when it comes to the Spanish and stuff, I mean, I think if they know you're making an effort, I always learned enough Spanish, enough German, enough French to be able to say, good evening, welcome to the show. My name's John. Thank you. Good night. Just those little bits that you can just throw in. Yeah. And I was lucky because and like with you as well, we're not just doing stand up. I mean, if I'm at the piano and I'm talking, I'm playing as well. So at least if they're not getting every word, they're listening to something that I'm playing. And then there's music and so you try and yeah, I've had lovely feedback from foreigners, and I thought, I've had Germans come up to me and say, "We enjoyed your show very much. We don't understand every word that you'll say, but we enjoy the show." And I'm like, I don't think I'd have sat through an hour of a German talking and playing the piano. So well done for sitting through an English competition. But English is, I was going to say the most widely spoken language, but I think that might be Spanish. But it's certainly up there. I think most people understand a basic grasp of it. So we're quite lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Emma said, if you could tell your teenage self one piece of advice, what would it be?
That's a good question. Go on Britain's Got Talent the year that it started and have a career ahead.
Yeah.
Blimey. Get confidence quicker. Every teenager has this thing. Mine's going through it now. They have this not being aware of their qualities, and that. I mean, you have to go through it as a teenager. You have to. It's a rite of passage. But I think as an adult, I hear my dad talking to my son so much when I say things to him. I hear my dad talking to me. So it must just be a thing that we'll continue doing. My son will do it to his son, and it's just the way it is. Confidence. Don't be worried that you're a bit different. I think this business, especially, I was an only child. I was creative. I was 6 foot when I was 14, but I didn't want to play rugby. And I was at a school that very much valued rugby players, but I wanted to play piano and do magic tricks and whatever it was. And I was made to feel sometimes that wasn't normal, and they wanted you to be normal. And as an adult, who wants to be normal? It's being extraordinary rather than ordinary is not always a bad thing. So I'd probably tell him that. Just embrace it.
Yeah.
Go with it. Be proud of who you are, I guess. I don't know. Good question, Emma. That's opened a can of worms.
Yeah.
This is like therapy.
Just pleased it wasn't Bovril related.
I can make it Bovril. We got a bit obsessed with that, didn't we? So
yeah, I was a bit worried that might be your advice to your teenage self. Something to do with
try Bovril. Yes, as a teenager. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Got a good question here from Berta over in the States. Said, would you consider bringing your show to America after the pandemic?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've done so many shows in America. I absolutely love it over there. American audiences. I'd love to take my show to Vegas. Do you know? I've never even been to. Have you been to Vegas, Richard? Have you visited Vegas?
Yeah, love it.
You've been to see all the matches. I've never been. I've never even visited. And in fact, I mean, there's been talk of when America's Got Talent is going again in 2022 of trying to sort of get something going and go over there and appear on the show, whatever. I'd love to see Vegas, but I'd love to get my show over anywhere in America. American audiences are great. Once you realize that it is a different language, you've got to embrace the differences. And I love it. I absolutely
I don't
hope
think there's anything, any kind of act like yours in Vegas. I think it'd really stand out. There's no, I don't think there's any musical comedians. It's such a unique thing that not many people can do. I think that would be good.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. If there's any Vegas bookers watching, get in touch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, little do we know is Berta owns a whole load of hotels on the Strip.
This is what we like. She's married. She's married to win.
Yeah. Berta, it'll be great if you can invite us over and let's perform in your hotels. That'd be great. Okay. So I'm just trying to find any questions that aren't Bovril related.
Oh no! Really? Did it go a bit crazy?
So we've got. I do appreciate the Bovril questions. I just feel terrible that I've still got no idea what that is. Let's just see.
Bobby asked if you both have to relive one thing, what would it be and why? If you have to relive one thing, what would it be and what? What in our whole life? This is from Wendy Rue.
Wow. Okay.
If you have to relive one thing, what would it be and why? These are very therapeutic questions, aren't they? Blimey. I don't know. I mean, relive. I don't know. I mean, if things like your kids being born, I guess. Yeah, but you don't want to relive that. I mean, it was emotional, but I don't want to go through it again.
So true.
I don't know if I want to relive anything. I'm more about looking forward. Really, it's I try not to regret anything. Don't look back because it's done. Get on with it.
Yeah, that's so true.
Don't know if I want to relive. If I won the lottery, I'd relive that. That'd be.
Yeah, that's true. Tanya said, "Are you learning any new skills?" I assume that means during lockdown. You've been stuck indoors for a while now. I've learned how to juggle and solve a Rubik's Cube so far. So what have you managed to do?
Have you learned to juggle? Brilliant. My best mate's a juggler. Yeah.
When I say only 3 small juggling balls for about about 15 seconds. That's just
it's quite therapeutic, isn't it? The juggling.
It is, weirdly, yeah. I enjoy it.
I worked in Covent Garden when I was 17, and there was a stall there called More Balls Than Most, and it was a juggling stall. And I got a job on the stall teaching that their deal was, if we can't teach you to juggle in 10 minutes, you get the balls for free. So my job was to try and teach people how to basically do a 3-ball cascade within sort of 10 minutes. But I loved it. Yeah, I learned to do clubs and Diablos and stuff. And juggling is great. That was fun. Other skills, I don't know. I've learned how to homeschool. Does that count?
Oh yeah, no doubt you've been busy.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I say I've learned it. I haven't really. I'm learning I'm learning new maths. They changed maths. Richard. How old are you, Richard?
30.
Oh, you are a baby. Yeah. So when I was at school, we did maths, and now my 9-year-old does maths, and it's changed. Who knew they could change maths? Like, the way you do times sums and division sums, and it's changed. They use a different thing now that you have to learn. So my 9-year-old has been teaching.
I don't understand why. It seemed to work for most
maths
people for
maths,
so many years.
right? Yeah. So homeschooling is a whole new skill that I'm trying to get my head around. If that counts, Tanya. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, it's a big shout out to any parents out there having to teach.
Oh man,
teach their kids. It's been a tough year.
Don't put yourselves down if you're finding it tough, because we all are. It's the hardest thing. No, there was that great quote during the first lockdown. They said when they cancelled school, and I read somewhere somebody put, "Parents are about to find out that teachers are not the problem."
That's such a good point.
Never a truer word spoken.
Yeah, no doubt it's very tough for the teachers who are having to put together some sort of syllabus for people to do at home as well. Our
next door neighbour's a teacher, and it's tough. Really, they really are doing their best. So
yeah. So just I'll keep an eye out for any more questions, but just in case I forget when we end this live, I just want to make sure people have got all your handles. So everyone who's watching, make sure you go and follow John, obviously over on Facebook. But so your Facebook is nice and easy. It's your name, isn't it? Jon Courtenay. Nice and easy.
Courtenay's got a weird spelling. If it's on the screen, you can see it. There you go. Jon Courtenay. It's an unusual spelling of Courtenay. And John, there's no H.
Are you on YouTube as well?
Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel, which if you type in YouTube / Jon Courtenay, that's my YouTube channel. And awesome. I'm not huge on there. I mean, I should be doing more stuff on there, more content. But there doesn't seem to be enough hours in the day. But I do put stuff on there. So, yeah, YouTube channel and Instagram is Jon Courtenay, and Twitter is Jon Courtenay, and Facebook is Jon Courtenay. Yeah.
Nice and easy. What I'll make sure I do is after this live, I'll add in the description above this video all of John's handles so you can go and find him, and make sure you go and see him on tour. Obviously, someone watching is going to see him VIP. In fact, it was Luella, wasn't it?
VIP. Yes.
The good news is I think Luella's also coming to my show as well. So, Luella, you're saving the theatre industry on your own there, so we appreciate that.
Are you touring this year too, Richard? You got some dates?
Not until October now. So I'm doing October, and some of the dates, some of the venues in the run we've had to postpone till February because they're not even open in October. They're predicting that they're not going to be able to do it yet. So they've been postponed 3 times now. Is it 3 times or 4 times? Yeah, loads of times.
Madness.
Which is crazy, but I'm really looking forward to it, obviously. So that's good news. Awesome. So I'll add all of those in. What I'll do is let's get one more big question. If you have any last questions for me and John, stick it in now. Let's end on a big one.
Rich is the day before you, John. Apparently.
In fact, actually, what I'm on. Wait, what was that?
I don't know. Luella. Rich is the day before you, John. I don't know where she means, or what. Oh, that's Luella who's coming to my VIP show. So I guess you're in the same venue the day before me. That's pretty cool.
Great.
There you go.
That's very cool.
Well, if you're at a hotel the night after your show, then I'll see you. I'll be there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We can meet in the flesh again. That'd be nice. There you go. Cool.
Awesome. So something else I've just remembered that I was going to tell you all, and I want to show you this on my phone. Is today is a very special day.
Yeah.
Firstly, happy Chinese New Year to everyone.
It's the bull.
Big one. The only reason I know that is because I saw John did a post this morning to wish everyone a happy Chinese New Year. So thanks for reminding us, John.
The year of bull.
It's the year of bulls. Awesome.
I think
And
so.
not only that, but everyone watching, this is very, very interesting. Today is known as a palindrome and also an ambigram, which means that you can read the date from left to right and from right to left and also upside down. So if I hold this up...
This doesn't happen very often. This is very cool.
That is today's date. But today's date can also be read in the exact same way, going backwards. Not only that, but also upside down. Oh, that's not even going to be possible.
It's just correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
God
true.
damn you, Apple. But how cool is that? This is a once in a
it's
once in a
not
lifetime.
often.
Yeah,
It's not.
I assume
It
that
doesn't
won't happen again. So that is very cool.
No.
That's an interesting day. So what a day to have done this chat. So, thank you very much to everyone. In fact, I did say we'll get one more question, didn't I? Let's just make sure we haven't missed anyone. Emma is a teacher, and she said she mentioned to everyone today that it is a palindrome date today. Awesome. So let's try and get... Because no doubt there's a lot of questions that we have missed throughout this. So if we did miss your question, I do apologise. But make sure you follow John. You can ask him on social media over there. Let's flick through. They are literally.
We've missed some funny stuff. We should
have tagged Bovril in this chat. And,
we should be getting sponsored by Bovril.
It should be sponsored, really, shouldn't it? This. Right. Let's see. We need one more lovely question. It takes me so long.
Do you know what is funny on this? I just realised it's not coming up on my computer screen, but on you've got your subtitles switched on, haven't you, for this?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you? Did you ever read them? They're very funny. Some of them don't get it quite right.
I've not really watched them to check, but
I've only seen the comment when I was talking about Elton. It was coming. It's quite funny. I want to talk about stuff now and just see what it comes up with on the subtitles. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to do that.
You know what? I've got a good question to finish on.
Oh, come on.
And this is my question. And the reason I asked is because I got a funny story as well. So, have you ever had any ridiculous, funny problems happen within a show?
Gotcha.
As in, I'll give you an example. My worst fail in a show. It wasn't long after BGT. I did a show somewhere down south. Somewhere. I don't know. I can't remember exactly where. But it was like a holiday place. Really lovely stage. And I did the sound check rehearsal. All went perfect. And it was fine. The team there were great. We checked everything. But I learned a valuable lesson that night. And the lesson I learned is never do anything in the show that wasn't checked in the sound check. Because just before I went on for the live show, a new guy turned up to help out backstage, and he said, "Oh, do you want me to add a layer of smoke, like on the like an effect on the stage, just a low level amount?" And I should have said no because I hadn't seen it, but at the time I hadn't done that many shows, didn't realise that you shouldn't really take risks like that. So I said, "Oh, that sounds great, let's do it." And he obviously didn't know what he was doing, bless him, and he must have left the machine on. He covered the stage, not just ankle height, but pretty much everywhere. It was like stars in your eyes. It was everywhere. And they introduced me, so I couldn't wait any longer. So I walked out onto stage, and I miscalculated how big the stage was because I couldn't really see the audience. And obviously there's lights and there's smoke everywhere. So everyone's watching this show. They hear, "And please welcome Richard Jones." And I walk out all confident. They're like, "Oh, here he is," clapping. And I walked straight out to stage, straight off the stage into the front row. And it was just horrendous. Luckily, I wasn't injured, so I could get back up and we laughed about it. But no doubt it probably looked like some sort of planned stunt. They probably thought, "Oh, he must be a comedian or something." So I just about got away with it. It was probably the best thing that happened in the show, actually. But I'll never forget that moment. And that was a lesson that I learned, is if you didn't check it in sound check, don't add it into the live show. But no doubt you've been in the game for way longer than I have. 30 years. You've got to have some great gold dust on this, surely.
Yeah, it's hard to pick one really. There's been nights of, or my first ever public paid. I say paid. I was 11 years old, and we lived next to an old people's home called Sycamore House in Ipswich in Suffolk. And I begged the manager to let me do a magic show for the residents of the old people's home. And my mum was going to come over, and all the neighbours were going to come, and it was in their sort of, their day room. And I put a magic show together because I was obsessed with magic. And back then it wasn't even about comedy. It was just about magic. I wanted to be whoever it was at the time. I suppose David Copperfield that was the early days of Copperfield. And I wanted to be, I had a tailcoat and I had a bow tie, and I was 11 years old and precocious and good. I was quite posh. There's a video of me when I was that age. And I used to be, hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I used to say, why are you talking like that? Anyway, so I was in their day room, and they had those, do you remember the plastic shutters? You might have seen them, that you could concertina back. It was like ceiling height, and they concertinaed, and then they concertinaed closed, hideous things. So those were my curtains. So I'd managed to open them to give myself some wings so I could make an entrance through the wings. And I was nervous, and I had a boom box. I remember this red boom box that I had with 2 speakers, and it was a cassette player because I'm that old. And it was my introduction music, which was probably. Oh
yes, Beverly Hills Cop.
It was around that time, and I was quite obsessed with Beverly Hills Cop. So that was probably my opening. That or Jean-Michel Jarre, which every magician used at the time, the Oxygene, Jean-Michel Jarre. Anyway, one of them. So I was in the wings, and I pushed play on my own because I didn't have a roadie. I was 11 years old. So I pushed play on my cassette deck. And then I walked out between these concertina doors in my tailcoat, my hands out, and I walked forward to my audience of 30 or 40, 90-year-old, and tripped over the extension cable flat on my face. I mean, didn't even have time to put my hands out to break my fall. Just tripped over this extension cable. Probably one of the first laughs that I got in my show. Probably hurt myself. Amazed I didn't break my nose, and stood up. And obviously completely threw me off because I thought I was a sophisticated magic act, and everybody's roaring with laughter because it was the fun. So probably, the worst thing in my head, but then in hindsight, I've got an audience of people laughing at me, which turns out that's sort of what the rest of my career would turn into. But that was my first ever entrance into a public audience, falling flat on my face. Similar to your story, really.
That's a nice, yeah. It's these little things that really make you. Getting over something like that isn't easy, but once you've done it, it
really is.
That's good.
Yeah.
So something I haven't asked you, John, and it's totally up to you if you're up for it. But before we finish, is there anything you can treat us to? Have you got any new material that you, or any material at all, to
what song?
End this chat on a high? Yes. Any?
Well,
Can you tease us on something you've been working on?
I was sort of thinking about it before we started. And there's a song that. This isn't a funny song. I should tell you this straight off. This is not funny in the slightest. It's a very serious song. But I got approached by the Royal British Legion this year to do something with them, for them, as part of their charity. And I came up with this idea of a song. And I thought, with your military history, this might be something. I mean, it is out there. I don't know if it's on YouTube or not, but we haven't really. Do they say dropped it? Is that what they say nowadays? It hasn't dropped yet, whatever that means. But it's a song that I wrote, and I haven't even properly learnt it. I mean, I've got the words on another screen here. But basically, the background behind this is my granddad was a big influence on me when I was a kid growing up. He was a singer and a piano player and an actor and just an all around sort of great guy. My mum's dad. He was called Ken. So he had these amazing stories. And my dad as well. My dad died in 2013, and my dad was 18 years older than my mum. And he had these incredible stories. And normally he'd have to have a couple of glasses of port or a couple of whiskeys before he started telling these. He was a great raconteur. He was that guy that you would sit and listen to for hours. He could just spin a story out. And he had some great stories. And I always said that I wish I'd sort of sat with him and when phones became advanced enough that you could have a voice recorder on your phone. It used to be a dictaphone before iPhones. But, I could have just sat with my dad and just poured him a couple of scotches and chatted to him and recorded it, and done the same with my granddad. And I never did. And it's one of those things that maybe I regret. So I came up with this idea of a song. We were talking about it earlier, about having that idea of a hook for a song. And when the Royal British Legion approached me and said, could you come up with something? I basically wrote this song about my granddad. And it's called I Wish I'd Asked My Granddad More. So I'll do it as I say, it's very unpolished. It's still, it's quite raw still. I haven't really, it's not in performance mode, but if you want to hear it,
absolutely.
I'll do it for you before we go. All right. I'll see if I can remember.
Let me change the screen and make you nice and big. So here we go. There we go. That's better.
He was a soldier. He went to war. Sometimes asked what he was fighting for. But he'd tell me stories and I'd sit enthralled. I wish I'd asked him more. He married true love at 18. For 3 years their love went unseen. Though battle scarred, true love endured. I wish I'd asked him more. Stories of sixpences and shillings, front doors unlocked and neighbours willing. The history you lived, the people you know. Tell me stories before you go. I know that you don't want to talk about the violence and death you saw, but your life will always be more than the blitz of Hitler's war. I've read of Christmases and trenches, of football games and sharing lunches, but every lesson learned should teach us why gunfire was heard on beaches. I wish that we'd sat down before. I could have asked you more. In your drawer at your bedside are the medals and ribbons that just beside the poppies and pin you wore with pride for the Legion by your side. Now your great-grandchildren are here. I tell them tales of the brigadier who for victory stood and faced his fears, and the Legion he held dear. Tell me of the years you shared with Grandma as the perfect pair, the devoted love and years of care, those final months when she was scared, when you held her hand and let her talk, often making no sense at all. But you were there, and at nightfall you held her when she called. I wish that we'd sat down before. I could have asked you more. Stories of sixpences and shillings, front doors unlocked and neighbours willing. The history you lived, the people you know. Tell me stories before you go. You're the reason why my mom made me the man I would become when my life had just begun. Because of you I'd won. As a parent now I hope to be the inspiration you were to me. We're all a part of history. I love our memories. The jokes you tell when you came round, I wish I wrote that laughter down. I'd see Mum's look as if you'd done wrong, but still I laughed along. The wink you shared when you caught my eye, the hugs you gave when you saw me cry. Late at night, the lullabies, I never thought about goodbye. When you were older, I'd rush to see you standing there beside the street, outside the shops in cold November. The words writ large, we will remember. I'd feel so proud to see you there, the smartest British legionnaire, thinking of your lost comrades for your tomorrow. We gave our today. So children, listen if you can see the slightest opportunity to sit upon your granddad's knee and listen to stories. Grasp every moment that you can. I guarantee Granddad or Gran will have so many tales in store. I wish I'd asked mine more. He was a soldier, he went to war, sometimes asked what he was fighting for. But he'd tell me stories and I'd sit enthralled. I wish I'd asked him more. I wish I'd asked him more. Thanks.
That was lovely. Let me get a proper applause cue from.
Hey, got an applause cue. Oh, I missed that sound. Oh, some lovely comments. Thanks, everyone.
I
missed all the comments.
Really lovely.
Yeah, it's sort of it's a weird
in there.
It's a weird thing in my show. I used to do the song that I did in the semi-finals about my mum and dad. I did a different version of that in my show that didn't have any comedy in it. It was just a song about watching my mum and dad on stage, and then I rewrote it for the BGT show. But I was sort of thinking, if you do a whole comedy show, sometimes it can be quite powerful just to sort of take a moment to do something that's not about comedy, that can just sort of hit home. It's what I call the Les Mis principle. If you watch Les Miserables, it's so dark and so depressing, and then suddenly in the middle you have Master of the House with the guy that runs the tavern, and it's this it's not necessarily hilarious on its own, but it's a moment of levity in an otherwise quite deep. And you can do it the other way around. You can have a comedy show, and if you take a point in that show and you just say, I'm just going to take a minute to sing about my granddad, and you do something like that, people, they might be waiting for a punchline, but sometimes it can be quite effective, So I'm going to maybe put that in the tour once I've learned it.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Thanks for doing that. Sorry to put you under pressure on.
No, I don't mind. It's nice to
do something. That's a real treat for us. So have you performed that already for anyone, or was that
not really? I did it for the Royal British Legion, but it was a pre-record, so I have a little what's it called, auto cue on my camera that I normally use if I'm doing a pre-record. I can put lyrics up and stuff, so I didn't have to read it on a computer screen. I could sing it to the camera, and I did it for them and sort of wrote it for this British Legion show that they were using to promote the charity. But yeah, other than that, that's the second time I've done it. So, but I was looking through stuff, going, if he asked me to sing something, you can do the BGT stuff, but that's all on YouTube and everything's out there. I thought, with your military history as well, we'll sing about my granddad. So yeah, good guy.
That's absolutely perfect to end this chat tonight. I really appreciate it. That means a lot to all of us. So thank you very much. So everyone watching, make sure you go and follow John, and I'm sure everyone is going to be sending you messages of thanks, no doubt, straight after this. Definitely.
Exactly. Well, I look forward to seeing you when we're doing the same theatre together. We'll have to look out for.
I was just about to say, yeah, I'll make sure I book a hotel room that night so I can come see your show the next day. So Loella, if you're watching, I'll be in the audience for John as well. So keep an eye out for me.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. All right, Richard. Thanks for having me on the show. It's been really great fun. Lovely to chat to you properly. All right.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to end with a little tune. Oh no, I'm not. That's not right. we always end with this little tune here. So thank you very much, John. Everyone else, keep safe and keep smiling. Thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.